Morning guys, welcome back to NZ Marko Outlaw Kustoms again. So this morning I think I'm going to pull apart this distributor, the one that's I found a while ago that I had soaking for a long time and it hasn't really freed up, so I'm obviously going to have to use a bit of heat on it and everything to try and get it all to come apart. I've got that one that I pieced together from bits and pieces. Yeah, I found that one upstairs. Yeah, I don't know. One of the times I was up there, I'd seen it and so I grabbed it and brought it down. And hadn't got back to it, obviously because we weren't really at this point. But so we need a distributor to go on that thing of some description. We were talking about maybe making it electronic. We'll see. So what I want to do is at least get that one stripped down, because there's other one's obviously missing pieces anyway, and see if I can make something out of what I've got there, and at least if we can get something that will work, or at least we can test to see if it works, and go from there, I guess. Because at this point, you know, obviously we're waiting on paint, we're still waiting on the clutch bearing. We're now waiting on that shaft, the thread to be repaired on that pinion shaft, and we're going to recut that, which hopefully will be done either today or tomorrow. So that won't take too much, and then I can put that together, get painted, and hopefully we should have the paint for the motor next day or two. Just, you know, obviously they'll probably, you know, be mixed today, or might have been mixed over the weekend or something like that. But yeah, and hopefully that clutch bearing will turn up sometime shortly too. So, but this is one of the obviously next things that's going to go on here. It fits in that all pump, water pump housing, it fits in there. So at least I've got that. I forgot it handy. I can test fit that, make sure that fits properly or that works. So we'll have a look, see what's going to take to get this apart, and we'll clean her up. So, put you down here for a second. So, there appears to be a pin in here. Look at this one. Apart. So just sort of sitting there. Yeah, so there's a pin in here, which is that one through there, so we need to get that off. Ah, so that's what that is. I just seen that before. Got one here. I wondered what that was for. Now I know. Just picked the boat out. So yeah, there's one there. So we've got a spare one. That's cool. But yeah, we still need to get this off. And get all this apart and just see what's missing. We know the cam's missing off that one. There's no cam on the top part of it. However that comes apart, I'm not sure. So yeah, so it's just a matter of just figuring out what's here, what's not, and go from there, I guess. Because at least this one looks like it's never been apart, or if it has been apart, you know, because it was a long time ago. So yeah, at least we can work out exactly how it works and see if we can get this shaft unseized. I think we'll get all this stuff off here first, the points and all that sort of crap, and go from there. Righty, so I got this back together. I wouldn't say it's working because we don't really have a good distributor cap. This one's got the button on the centre, but don't know if you can see, but in here you can see where the distributor's been hitting the posts on one side and the contacts on one side and been clearing the others. So that cap's not really any good and it's broken. Like, it could be used if you're really desperate, I guess. And this one here is got no button in the middle. I wasn't sure whether it was meant to have a button in the middle or whether the cap had something that rode up in there. Not the cap, the rotor had something that rode up in there. I haven't seen a rotor yet, but I managed to actually find a picture of one online that was on sale on eBay, but it's not no longer available. But that that listing still pops up, so I'm going to do a couple of screenshots of that when I remember, and at least we would know what we're looking for. But I'll put our feelers out here somewhere and just see if we can find maybe another complete or new old stock cap and rotor, and possibly a set of points for this Wagner distributor. And funnily enough, I was just talking to Arco and discussing some stuff. Where are we? On here. So this says, I don't know if you can see that. It says model K815 serial 60. Well, believe it or not, that one there says the same thing, but serial 14. So in theory, when they were being made, this one he was obviously first, and that one's only 46 down the line. That's not bad effort for 90-something years, is it? Do you end up in the same place? Like how many hundreds or thousands were made, you know. Obviously these were made to fit a Studebaker, so what was the likelihood of the serial number that was printed on this to be that close together? Almost 100 years later. It's pretty cool. But I think what we're going to have to do is, so I've pieced this together and the points do open, but obviously it's pretty doggy. It is pretty doggy. Like, we can try and use it and see if it'll work, but the other problem is there's a bit of movement in the shaft. I wouldn't say it's horrendous for the age of it, but it's not great. I don't know if I can just try and, yeah, there's a bit of movement in it. It's not, I wouldn't say it's horrendous. You could try it and see if it would run. Probably if it was doing big RPMs, it might be a problem. But the thing is, probably never going to see huge RPM. But what I might do, because you're only unscrewing this piece off and taking that away, so what we might do, because we do have another drive and whatever, and that's only a matter of taking that screw out and pulling this off the bottom, and changing the springs over to these weights, unless I can find another set of springs, but maybe get the bush redone on this one with this shaft, because it's about the same. It's just got enough movement in it to be possibly throw, you know, so when you're getting down the line at a higher rev, it starts missing and starts breaking down. So we could get that one rebuilt. And the thing is, once we got that one rebuilt, you could actually probably get, it wouldn't hurt to do that one too. So then if you did happen to be away somewhere, you could just have that piece, if you know what I mean. You could probably have a whole kit. We could almost rebuild the whole thing. We got most of it, if you know what I mean, for two. So if you did happen to like do that Paris to Peking, you could rebuild the two. Like, I don't know what it's going to cost to put a bush in there and make sure it's got a really nice, fairly tight tolerance. But yeah, like, it probably wouldn't cost a lot to just rebush that and have two of them. So like, if you for some reason it did happen to wear itself out, you get a spear, you know, and you can probably have the bulk of the guts of it there ready to go, and all you might have to do is swap a couple bits over. I don't know. So yeah, so that's what I might do. I might get that shaft and bits and pieces, or the bush redone and that, just to make it better. But probably what we'll do is, obviously when we're getting closer, we might see if we can get it to run with this one. Unless we happen to get it all rebuilt and get all the bits, and then we'll just put it all together with the new one, with the rebuilt. But I think if you had a cap and a rotor, and maybe a new set of, had two condensers on it, so whether it needs two condensers or not I don't know, but it looks like originally it might have had a big one underneath, whereas this has got two. I do have another one here, so there was only one on the other one. For what reason I don't know, but yeah, we could get a couple of condensers just in case it needs two, throw them on it, and then with a cap and a rotor that will work, we may better get it to fire on this. So yeah, everything seems to work good. So yeah, it's just a matter of possibly, yeah, putting a new bush in that one just to make it a bit more reliable, and you know, possibly use one to see if it'll run, and then strip it apart and put it back together again. Worst comes to worst. I haven't put the drive pin back in this one, not yet anyway, because I just wasn't sure which one we were going to end up using. But yeah, because we've only got one pin, but it wouldn't be hard to find something to put in it. So even a roll pin, a small roll pin might be even just as good, if you know what I mean. So yeah, super simple design. You know, spring weights in there, so it's got a automatic advance, you know, from back in the day, mechanical advance, but still, and it's also got advance on here. So if you find it's not quite advanced enough, you know, when you get it set up, you can still get an advance on here as well as the mechanical, you know, when it's spinning. So yeah, I don't know if they're really ahead of their time, but you know what I mean? They're reasonably ahead of their time. So I don't know how many vehicles back then had the mechanical weights in them. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I know that's, you know, it's not really a lot different to, like, you know, what's in a small block Chevy frickin', or a, you know, a Mopar distributor, or even a, you know, from 60s and 70s, like, you know, they didn't change much underneath there. You know, with springs and stuff, you know, they just had stiffer and lighter springs and whatever, or they just locked them out. But so yeah, but it's I've kind of rebuilt it and pieced it back together. I think that's basically complete, except for, yeah, a rotor and a cap. Right, morning guys. So welcome back to NZ Mopar Outlaw Kustoms. It's cold. Anyway, just ran out of diesel in the heater, and it's quite a nice wee frost outside. Yeah, another crisp fine one this morning. I just got the doors open to at least get maybe some warmth from the sun. Until I get some diesel. A frickin' heater. Frickin' story of my life around here. I need a reserve, what do you want to call it? Like a little jerry can. Oh, brain's going fart in there for it. So I can't really go much further with the Dizzy. I found a third set of points this morning. I've actually got them in there. They're actually about the best out of the lot of what I've got, just to play with, if you know what I mean. Hold on. One-handed life. Right, so these are about the best I've got, just to play with, and if we happen to get a rotor and maybe a cap, we might be able to try and see if this thing at least works, you know, when we get the motor going, until we get other stuff sorted. I will get that rebuilt. We actually went home yesterday at lunchtime, and my washing machine had blown up, so that's fucking handy. So I spent most of yesterday trying to sort fucking, well, I didn't really sort anything out, but I was paying some bills and whatever else, so by the time I dealt with the washing machine, all those sorts of things, that's great. But yeah, we're on a max adjustment on this little screw for the points. So, but that's about the best one, because the other, well, one that was slightly better than the other, the cam is running, so it's almost touching, whereas this has actually got a bit of movement before it actually starts moving. So that would get us running, but there is a bit of movement in that shaft, and it's not ideal. So we will get that rebuilt, and we'll swap the bottom over, at least that'll take that slop out of that. And I'm kinda, because I've got no brush, or what do you want to call it, contact for here, I've made one out of an old brush that I found floating around. That was actually a big wide square thing, so I've cut that down and kind of made it round, so at least we might have something that we can fire it up on. So I don't think that other cap's going to be any good, wherever it is, that one, because it's got no, the tit to hold it down is broken off. So even though it's got a brush in it and a spring in it, it's kind of, because that's bit's broken off, you'd never get it to stay on. So at least if we can get some sort of brush or contact in here, I'm going to make a spring or something, but I'm going to wait to do the rest until I get a rotor, or at least find a rotor. If we can find the whole lot, we'll just use the whole lot, if you know what I mean. But trying to make something just in case we can't find something in the meantime. We might be get it running with a bodged up system, if you know what I mean. So that's about where I got with the distributor, since I didn't really get back here yesterday. So what else am I going to work on today? So I've just set this back up because I want to figure this out for the spare wheel. I've sort of been procrastinating on that. So I'm going to try and maybe mock something up with some timber, so I know what I'm going to make. I've got a rough idea what I'm going to make, but I just want to mock it up off, off a couple of photos and work out exactly what I want to make, so I know what steel to get, and make something up. Also, I found this before, and I was wondering what it was for. I was poking through here trying to see if I could find springs or anything to do with the distributors, having another poke through all the junk, bits and pieces and screws and stuff I've found and collected in little puddles. And I think this here, if I go back over to this door, which is still the original timber, I get a sneaking suspicion that these here were down in the original holes. Yeah, down in these original holes, because it's actually the right depth for the distance of that top board. I reckon that was probably down in there to slip the door curtains in, so it wasn't chewing away on the wood. So at some point I will try and find some steel tube, if I can find something the right size, and we might have to open these holes up a little bit and get them, slip something down in there. And I may make a little, see if I can make a small flat to go on top of it, that I can maybe put a couple of screws in. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see where we go there, but we at least need to put something down in there, obviously. So when the curtains are in there, they're not just chewing away on the wood. There's something a bit harder. So, yeah, it's something else. You know, just little things you come across and you think, right, shit, yeah, it's something else I got to frickin' do. Because then none of that was in the door. That was the only one that was floating around. I was like, what's that for? And it just dawned on me, maybe that was down in the door. Because it's the right depth. And it kind of makes sense, if you know what I mean. So that it doesn't get chewed away. So that will have to be sorted. It's not a big job, but, you know, it's something else we need to do. And then, so I'd like to make these curtain sides shortly-ish. So yeah, we'll see how we go, but I'm going to try and mock something up out of timber, so I can get a bit more of an idea of what I need to buy, or how I'm going to make it, if you know what I mean, and what I'm going to make it out of, steel-wise, sort of figure it out, get my head around it. So I'm going to do that. I'll come back to you when I've got a bit more planned out. Righty, I'm still working on this thing. I had the just normal tie up there, but I threw the one on with the rim on it just because it changed totally the way it was sitting. It was sitting way too low before, with just a tyre on there. But I've got some 5mm plate here, which is about 50mm wide, which is basically 2 inches by, what's 5mm? It's not quite quarter, I think. I think six would be about quarter. So this is a little, just slightly lighter than that. And I was going to use this, but I think it means I'm going to have to cut it down that way. And it'd probably be alright for the piece that wraps around the bar underneath, like wraps around the bar underneath, where the fuel tank's bolted on, lots of stuff. The down here. I think it'd be perfectly fine to kind of, like that's about what these are, about 5 or 6mm or whatever they are, or was it 1/4 inch plate or whatever it is? What, 1/4? Oh, whatever it is. Anyway, it's about the same sort of thickness, so that would be alright for the piece that wraps around here. But it looks like in photos, the piece that comes along here catches the bottom of this and then rocks up and rolls around and then hooks onto there, and then they make another piece that bolts in the front of it, which I'm going to use a bit of that pipe for, hopefully. Again, because of what the photos look like. It really needs to be something about double the thickness of it, and it can't be too wide. That's the other problem, because where it comes through here, it's sort of going to miss that anyway, but kind of not, if you know what I mean. This piece here is about double the piece that wraps around there is about double that thickness or heavier. Climb back up. So yeah, the pieces that this sit on are pretty heavy. Like that's at least 3/8, if not heavier, or 10mm, which was what I was thinking of making it out of. But I'll have to go get some. I'm not sure if they would sell maybe 30mm wide, which would be about, what's that, about 1.25-ish. Trying to just think roughly wide to make the pieces that go across here, and then maybe back down underneath, and then where the loop piece goes around, I could maybe weld just a small strip of this on and cut it and shape it down. I think that would be plenty to go around there, but just weld this onto that heavier plate and loop it round and then put a bolt through it to clamp it, if you know what I mean. I just think it would be, I'd have to double it up and do a lot of fricking round and cutting and stuff like that to make these pieces out of it. And then there's like a short little round boss. So as the piece comes up here, sits onto here, and then there's a, I'm guessing there's a bolt or something comes through from the back. And then there's a round boss, which would have originally had like a key lock nut type thing in it. That would have wound out so you could take this front half off and you could get the spear off. And it's got a piece a bit like this on it. So I'm thinking about using a hunk of this and to replicate that look. And we'll just make a nut or something, or a bolt with a big nut on it, and we'll make something like a big wing nut sort of type thing, just to undo and lock, you know. The likelihood of something pinching a spare tyre off this here in New Zealand nowadays, it's pretty slim for something like this. I can't imagine it happening, not here. Maybe if you're over somewhere else, maybe somebody might pinch it off there, but they're likely to take the whole fucking car, not just the spare tyre. So yeah, I think that's kind of what we'll do. And then if we happen to find the right thing somewhere down the line, well, we can swap it over a bit. That's kind of what I'm going to do, I think. I just think I might go get some heavier plate that's not quite so wide to mimic this stuff. And then I can use that bit of that for the piece that goes around that piece. And use a bit of this pipe just for this little short standoff. I wish for some reason I can't cast photos with fucking TV anymore. I don't know what's going on, but weird. Otherwise I'd show you. But yeah. Because it's, yeah, good for that boss piece that looks like it's got the key in it, so I might use a bit of that for that. Just because I've got it handy. Clean it up. I think it might be gout, but if I clean it up properly, it should be right. It's not ideal, but it's what I got. Without buying a heap of fucking stuff, unless they happen to have a short offcut at the engineers out of a bit of, you know, short slugger, heavy wall tube, like a bit of steam type tube or something like that. If they had a bit of that floating around, I'd grab that, but I might go see if we can get some 35mm by 10mm bar or 40mm by 10mm bar or something like that. But I don't want it quite as wide as that if I can get it. And then we can mimic that shit. Right guys, so I got a hunk of steel and some other bits and pieces as well. We're still having problems with the bearing. The bearing that turned up was to work like this other one, wherever it is. It was a one that sat on the, you know, would work on the outside. It wouldn't spin. This piece didn't stay still in the centered spun. It worked the other way around like this one, which was a real frickin' pain in the ass. It was almost the right size, but it worked the wrong way, and they obviously didn't double check that. And it came all the way from Australia, so we're not quite sure what we're going to do now. We may have to strip our old one and see if we can use it, see if we can make it work. Clean it and just reuse it, repack it full of grease or something. We're not really sure. That may be our last option, or manufacture a new housing to find something that will work that's slightly bigger in diameter. I don't know, but yeah. But anyway, this carrier, so I'm going to reverse engineer it backwards. I'm going to engineer it backwards at this point. I've got a rough idea what I need to do, but the first bend I'm going to do is a bend from here down and then to go underneath here, and then we'll work out how much we're going to go that way. I'll just have to heat it and bend it, you know, come down, and then we'll tuck it around here to come down to here to poke this way, and then we'll make the next bit to come out here, if you know what I mean. And I've got, we'll use that to make the loop round to clamp the tube. I've got this to make the piece that sticks out there, and I've got a little bit of, what do I do with that tube? Some light tube here to make the little inserts for the doors, whatever I just did with that. So this is 3/8 on the inside, which should work perfectly to make the little inserts for in here. I'll just open these holes up and then slip them in and glue them in here, so at least when the pins go down for the curtains it's not tearing into the wood. So that's the plan for that. So yeah, that big bit of pipe, which is actually, what do I do with that lid? Oh. This paint cap lid is perfect. Diameter, it's bloody near identical. So that will become the basis of this piece that sits out here, that the next bit sits underneath, and this will be like the locking nut beyond this. So I've got some nice big heavy walls, so at least when you're twisting up and tightening it up, and we'll weld some bit of plate into it at both ends or something like that, and it'll be nice and strong, and it shouldn't collapse or distort or bend. Or I just, I could have used some lighter tube or that bit of pipe. I could have probably used a bit of that. That would have been fine. Probably would have been fine, but I didn't really want to use a galv. So that's a bit of heavier wall, slightly bigger diameter. It's a wee bit bigger than what I wanted, but I think it'll be fine. That doesn't look out of place down there. It's not huge, so it'll work. We'll make it work. So, because I didn't have many other choices, with just in the local shop. And I also dropped the other housing off to get the new bush made in there. And they're working on the pinion. Yeah, and we're trying to work out what we're going to do for this freaking clutch. But anyway, so I've got this marked here at my depth, and I'm going to bend it over hard and beat it down so it's flat out against this, and that'll give me my distance that I know that I want from here up. So we'll work on that, and we'll come back to you shortly. This is where I'm up to at the moment. Obviously, I still got to put another bend in this to point it back up towards a thing. I'm just going to bolt it in. I'll just draw a little hole through there so I could get a bolt through there, so I could at least clamp it up, so I could get a true reading. So I'm now about to climb back underneath there and use this bit of wire. It's my gauge for the angles and whatever, and for the rough length I need, and then we will work out what I need to do with that smaller flat bar to make a loop, and just work out exactly what we're doing here, and then we will work out for the next piece to come down here and along and back down here, and then have the round bit on it off the clamp, so the nuts out here, not way back in here, if you know what I mean. And obviously originally that would have had some sort of lock nut thing in it. Like I said, if they happen to find the right thing at some point, well, you can change it for the original. But this will look, by the time I'm finished, it will look kind of like the thing, and most people won't know. But it's kind of where we're at here, so I'll just get underneath here wherever we measure up, so we can get a bit of an angle, and just work out what we need to do here. Right, morning guys, so welcome back again. I didn't get a chance to do a further update from yesterday, so we'll do that now. So I got to, I'll turn the camera around, that'll be easier. So I've got to about here, so I've got that made, kicked up there. I haven't got it wrapped around that bar yet, but I'm not too worried about that. So I'm working on this piece here to come back around and clamp onto that, and then we'll make the tube piece to go over there. Now the clutch bearing. Oh, this is going to be hopefully I might be onto something. I posted a post on a couple of Studebaker pages, and this guy from the States messaged me, and I'll have to do some research just to make sure it is legit, but he said his company's got a whole lot of old stock. I think from the way I was talking, old stock and bearings and parts and stuff for a whole heap of different makes and models of cars, and he reckons he should have a clutch bearing to fit this, hopefully. So I've just picked up the housing because the guy that's been trying to find us the bearing still got that. But I took some measurements out of here, and I just messaged the guy with the bearing, and he sent me all the info off the bearing and the measurements of the bearing, so I've just sent that through to this guy, so hopefully we can find one. And I've also sent the same information to Arco because he's going to try from his end too, just in case, you know, the second option. So there's bound to be something somewhere, is just fucking finding it. Because obviously these guys here that are looking through bearings obviously haven't got access to a lot of that older stuff, you know, with some of these funny, the way they made funny things back then. So yeah, the biggest hang up has been, if we were using this style, it would be fine, because this housing here, this one's frozen, but this face here and this face here turned together, well, you know what I mean, and the thing works in here. But this is for the other clutch system that works on this car with that other cast iron gearbox, and it's got not 3 fingers, I think it's got like 6 or maybe 8 flat fingers, bit more like a modern clutch, and that's that bearing. But that bearing here won't work on this. It's bigger than this one by a bit, not a lot, but it's actually physically bigger in diameter, the touch pattern, and it would actually foul it out here more. I get that. Right, like I think it would foul on there before it touched the fingers. It might work, but you know what I mean? Like well, I think by the time you press it in, it would be fouling, because it's too big in diameter. But yeah, because this one here slips in this housing, just this face moves. The rest of it doesn't move, it's still. So it's like in a C channel. It comes up and it's just that face that spins. So yeah, that's the biggest problem is to find that style of bearing, that size, that fits the fucking thing. So yeah, every time we've found one, it's been the wrong style of thing, because all the modern bearings are more like that one than that one. Not many bearings sit in a housing like that, if you know what I mean. Well, they may do, but you know what I mean, like they're not the right size. Yeah, there's like a lot of modern bearings, clutch bearings, are more like that, you know. So yeah, hopefully we might be onto something now. So hopefully I might hear back before the end of the day. But we got the right thing, and they only said just get fucking 2. So yeah, if we ever have a failure, we're not trying to find another one again, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's kind of where we're at there. So I'm going to carry on with bending this. So I need to heat and bend this about where that line is, to get that piece to pop down to press against here when we clamp it up. It needs to be fairly snug. So yeah, I'll do that and trim the rest of this off and whatever, and we'll come back to you again. So that's all kind of where we're at to. That still isn't, the fucking output or the pinion shaft still hasn't been repaired for that. They were meant to do that yesterday. I kind of get sick of that. It'd be nice to get some of this shit fucking back. Story of my life, waiting with all this stuff. It's just, I understand some things are hard to get, but you know, it'd be nice to get some of these bits back. Still got the paint. Apparently the tank's back together, but I've got to bring it back, put the ends on it, hammer the ends over, and then it'll go back for the final and pressure test. So yeah, that'll be good. So we're going to pick that up. I think he's going to pick it up today. I think he's going to go in there and pick it up today, and hopefully the paint, I can get that painted. Yeah, and maybe some other things. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to remember what all we're waiting on. But that sort of side of it. Yeah, hopefully they get this frickin' pinion shaft sort of taken. Let's fucking get that out of the road. Yeah, and hopefully, if this clutch bearing is available, also Thursday we're going to go to the Vintage Car Club. Here, the local one. They've got quite a big part shed. So we're going to hunt through there and see if we can find stuff for this distributor. If not, the same guy reckons he should have the parts for that distributor too, for that, the cap, the rotor and the points. So we might get a collection of bits for that too. And to be safe, we might get, depending on obviously the cost, we might get doubles. So we've got spares here. So yeah. But hopefully the engineers kind of get their A into G a little bit, and I know they've got a lot of other stuff they're doing too, but it'd be nice to at least get it together, because I don't like having all these fresh stuff open when you're trying to make other parts. So yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Because yeah, I had to cut some steel yesterday, so I moved all that shit from over there back to here. So I'm now going to have to clean that bench back down again to do the final assembly and setup. I could do it here, but that's a bit of height bench. That's quite a good height bench too, but it's a little low when you're bending over all the time. But it's just a little bit higher. It's good if you're working on big stuff, or yeah, it's fine. But you know what I mean. That's just a little bit higher. It's a little bit more better when you're working over something a little bit not quite so big, I guess. Or when you're trying to fiddle around and set stuff up, just a slightly better height. So yeah, anyway, I'll stop waffling. Alright, let's go see if it fits. And then I'll have to trim it off. That's better. Let's try that. At least I can see what the camera's doing. Yeah, just drawing that black line there. I think I might just kick this piece just a little bit further round, and then we can cut this off and shape it to look a little bit like, kind of like that. I might maybe narrow it up a little bit, but we've still got to put this other piece on here. Here's our bit of fucking pipe. So we've still got to cut a hunk off this. Hopefully it's not too fucking big. Put that on there, because I will weld this bit of pipe onto that, and it will only be sort of about that long, maybe. Might be only about that long. So the nut thing that I make up to go on the end of it, well, I'll put a longer bolt in here, obviously. I might make a, I'm not sure yet, I might make a secondary thing to come up to tie the bolt in at the back. We'll just see how that works. I'm not quite 100% sure because I can't see the back of the real thing. So yeah, I'm just kind of making it on the fly, but off the couple of pictures that I've got of one. So you will kick this down a little bit. Yeah, this tube thing will be out to about here, and then there'll be I'll make a, I don't know whether I'll make a, like a big wing nut sort of type thing to wind into the tube with the thread. We'll see how that works yet. I'm not 100% sure, quite sure how I'm going to do that. I'll work it out. Yeah, and that'll be that. And then I may tie something else back into the back of this, which I'll weld onto the bolt so it can't run away, if you know what I mean. Not easy. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll work that one out as we go. I might tie it into maybe the strap piece that goes around the bar. I'm just not 100% sure. We'll work that out. Anyway, I'll carry on. Right, so this piece of exhaust tubing is about the same diameter as that tube as it runs across the back of the car, where the clamps are for the fuel tank and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to bend this bit of steel around it and try and make a clamp a bit basically that shape that we can then put around that bar and bolt onto that other piece. Right, so instead of remaking it, I cut it down. I took about a quarter off the width, so it's now about the same width as the original tank strap. So I actually ground it down with a flappy wheel. I ground it down and made it a little bit thinner, and now I've just heated this up cherry red, and I'm just going to let it cool, and hopefully that might just make it a little bit, because when I was bending it and heating it and then I dunked it in there, I probably hardened it a bit. So I just tried to anneal it and make it a bit softer, so it mightn't be quite so stiff to pull in and out to slip over. We'll just see, we'll just let it cool down, and then I'll test my theory, just in case, you know, I made it hard, if you know what I mean, when we were bending it before. So, worst comes to worst, I'll just grind it down a little bit thinner again. I've mainly done it, I've done it everywhere, but I've mainly done it around that loop, just trying to make it a bit thinner. I don't know, maybe take a third off it or something like that, just so it's a bit more pliable, and I have to take a little bit more than that off. And just so it moves a bit easier, it's got a bit more flex in it. You know, just when I heat it up, I just reshape it a little bit, so it's not quite so tight. I sort of want to heat it up heat it around here, and I just opened it up a little bit, and then as I opened it up, I heated it back in here and tried to pull it down a little bit. So hopefully, it might just a little bit more open. I can get it in there and out of there. You know, it might be just a bit more flexible now. Because once I get it on there and drill some holes in it, then it won't be quite so bad, but I can paint it up. Once it's on there, I'm not taking it off again. So, just have to do a bit of a dress up, cut this off, drill a couple of holes in it. And then I can match that up to the other piece. Put a pair of vice grips on it, mark the holes in the tone piece and drill them, and then we can bolt it up. And then I can work on my little circle piece for the lock a bit. So yeah, I'll come back to you when I've got a bit further, I guess. Righty, so I'm still waiting on the other piece to cool down. It's basically lunchtime, but I cut a piece of that pipe off, and then I just chopped the edge off it on one side so I could get this to sit in here and I can get a really good wicked weld on there. I've got these two washers in here, so that big washer, the hole in it's a bit big. I'll sit down here. The holes in it's a bit big, and I know that is tapered, but that's because this here is slightly tapered. Kind of worked out just when I cut it, because I cut it and chopped. I set it and chopped this all sideways, and just the way it cut actually happened to work kind of well. But anyway, I'll weld that washer in there part way, and I'll centre this one with a couple of tacks. We'll break this off eventually. I'd actually, if I can find a better washer with a slightly smaller centre, I'll drill it out to the right size bolt, but I actually want to see if I can get a slightly bigger bolt. I'm not sure what size this bolt is. I know the hole I've drilled in these is 3/4, but the hole in this is a little bit smaller than 3/4. I'm not sure, like it would be about 7, so 3/4 is about 19 mil. Would be equivalent to what 17 mil was, which I think would be 11/16, but I don't know if they make 11/16 bolts. I wouldn't have a freaking clue. It's not a common size I've ever used. But what I'm going to try and do, if I see if I can get 11/16 bolt, maybe it comes out here about the same sort of length or a little bit further. I might make it a little bit longer so I can build a piece to go on behind here so I can lock it so this won't spin by itself, if you know what I mean. I'll make a little plate piece and weld it onto the nut about the same shape as in here to fit in behind this to sort of lock in. Then when you're pulling it up tight, it's not going to spin from behind. And I've got this big chunk of aluminium, which just happened to be lying around here, and I'm going to turn it into the nut to hold this shit on. I may go 3/4, I'm not sure, because I know Dad's got a couple of 3/4 taps, or something like that. We'll see. I may have to drill this hole out. A 3/4 will almost go through here, but not quite. But I could always put a 3/4 drill bit in there and then just rim it out a little bit. But I've painted it. That's why I kind of want to go a little bit smaller. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what taps Dad's got too. So yeah, what my plan is to make a nut thing that'll screw in here, slightly proud of it, and make it look a bit like the original thing, maybe, or because it's got quite a bit of diameter, I could shape it a bit like a wing nut and then chop it down and shape it afterwards once I've sort of got the centre turned, because I want it to go into this a bit. You know, I can grind the bottom, I can shape the bottom of this so it's round, or round enough, and have it spinning and come up against this plate, this, you know, or that washer you know, in there, you know, I don't know, 3/8 or half an inch sort of type sort of thing. You know, I'll weld it in from the back, and then have that come up against it, and maybe a wing nut, or maybe something that looks a little bit like the original. I'll see what I can come up with, because like I'm not, Dad's old lace not the best, but I think it would be good enough to get this to a certain point, and then I can clean it up and polish it up with a die grinder, and I can just polish it, and it'll look fine, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that, and I think it'll look quite good, because it is a big aluminium little nuts thing with a key in the centre of it. But if I can mimic that but not have the key in the centre of it, or something like that, or have a big wing nut thing that we can sort of wind it in, you know, and what I may do is I could possibly put just trying to think, what could I do? I may better, like, maybe put a metal nut in there, or no, probably if I just cut a decent thread in there, a nice big fat coarse thread, and if I got it going in there at least half an inch or more, and have the bolt stick out here, and then that's proud like that, yeah, that'll be fine. That'll be fine. So you want a slightly longer bolt in this, maybe another half an inch longer or an inch longer, so I can get it what I want it to be, and then chop it off where I need it to be, if you know what I mean. Once I work out my depth and cut a nice big fat thread in there, yeah, I think that'll work perfect. So it might be another day of mucking around with the lathe and whatever, and see if we can get it to work. Because I'd like to make it myself. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So but I'm going to go to some lunch and see if my frickin' power steering pump's turned up. Hopefully, for the old car out there. Alright, we'll catch you later on.
Welcome to Iron Outlaws. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this.